August 18th, 1942. A clearing in a pine forest outside the village of Belzec in occupied Poland. A train with 45 freight cars has just arrived from Lwów, packed with 6,700 human beings. The engine of the gas chamber will not start. For 2 hours and 49 minutes, thousands of naked men, women, and children stand packed together, waiting to die. An SS officer in a medical coat watches, a stopwatch in his hand. What does a man do when he is ordered to deliver the poison for this machine? How does he refuse an order from the architects of the final solution? And what is the price for trying to tell the world a secret no one wants to hear? This was Operation Reinhard, the code name for the systematic murder of the Jews of Poland. The German state used its full power, organizing transport, personnel time, and technology for mass killing. The SS, the Schutzstaffel, ran the camps, and within its ranks were specialists, engineers, doctors, and sanitation experts whose skills were turned to industrial death. Well, one of these men was SS Obersturmführer Kurt Gerstein, a mining engineer and disinfection expert in the Hygiene Institute of the Waffen-SS. He was now on a secret mission to make the gassing process faster, quieter, and more efficient. Kurt Gerstein was born in Münster, Westphalia. On August 11th, entered in 1905 into a family of the Prussian elite. His father was a judge, an authoritarian figure who expected his son to follow a path of nationalist obedience. Gerstein studied mining engineering at the universities of Marburg, Aachen, and Berlin, graduating in 1931. He was a man of science, but also a man of deep, almost fanatical Christian faith, a member of the Confessing Church, which opposed the Nazification of Protestantism. This opposition defined his early adulthood. His first arrest came in September 1936 for distributing religious pamphlets at a meeting of the German Association of Judges. He spent 5 weeks in custody. A second arrest followed in July 1938, after attending a religious play in his hometown of Hagen. This time he was expelled from the Nazi Party. The turning point came in 1941. His sister-in-law, Bertha Ebeling, who suffered from a history of mental illness, was taken from her home. Soon after, the family received a death certificate from the Hadamar Euthanasia Center, one of 6 such facilities for the Action T4 program. The cause of death was listed as appendicitis, but the family knew she had no appendix. It was a lie. Gerstein became obsessed with the idea of seeing this killing system from the inside. He decided to join the very organization that had murdered her. On March 10th, 1941, despite his previous arrests, Kurt Gerstein enlisted in the Waffen-SS. His technical background was his entry point. He was assigned to the SS Hygiene Institute, first in Hamburg, then in Berlin at number 16, Berkehrstrasse, under the command of SS Standartenführer Joachim Rogowski. His official work involved designing and implementing disinfection systems for the troops, using highly toxic gases like Zyklon B to kill lice and prevent the spread of typhus. He was good at his job. He developed mobile disinfection chambers and water purification systems. For over a year, he was a model SS officer, applying his engineering skills to sanitation. Then, in the summer of 1942, his skills were requisitioned for another purpose. On June 8th, SS Sturmbannführer Rolf Günther of the Reich Security Main Office, a deputy to Adolf Eichmann, arrived at the institute. He ordered Gerstein to procure 100 kilograms of Zyklon B from the Degisch factory in Dessau and deliver it to a secret location in the east. Günther told him it was for a special purpose, to disinfect the clothing of a massive workforce. It was another lie. On August 8th, 1942, Gerstein traveled to the Kolin factory near Prague to pick up the shipment. From there, his orders directed him not back to Berlin, but to Lublin, Poland, the administrative center for Operation Reinhard. He arrived on August 17th and was taken to the SS and police headquarters to meet SS Gruppenführer Odilo Globoknik. Globoknik, a brutish Austrian, was the director of the entire extermination program in Poland. He spoke plainly. He told Gerstein the Führer had ordered the final solution of the Jewish question. He gave Gerstein the tour itinerary, Belzec first, then Treblinka, then Sobibor. He boasted of the efficiency of his camps, but mentioned a problem. The current method, using exhaust fumes from diesel engines, was not always reliable. Globoknik told Gerstein, "Your job is to make it better." He then stated that the camps would need to process 25 million people. The next morning, a car was waiting to take Gerstein to Belzec. He arrived at the camp and was introduced to its commandant, SS Sturmbannführer Christian Wirth. Wirth was a police officer from Stuttgart, a veteran of the Action T4 euthanasia program who had pioneered many of the techniques of mass gassing. He was known throughout the SS as Christian the Savage. Wirth gave Gerstein a full tour of the Belzec facility on the morning of August 18th, 1942. It was a small, compact site, less than 300 meters on each side. Wirth showed him the undressing barracks. Marked with signs for valuables and clothing, he pointed to the immense piles of shoes, some measuring over 25 meters high. He explained the deception. The victims are told they are being sent for a bath. An SS man with a loudspeaker announces they must undress and hand over all valuables, promising they will be returned. Then, they are forced through a narrow, fenced-in passage called the Tube into the concrete structures disguised as bathhouses, as Wirth was explaining. A new transport arrived from the Vilnius Ghetto. The train had 45 freight cars containing 6,700 people. By the time the seals were broken, 1,450 were already dead from suffocation and dehydration. The survivors were driven out with whips and clubs. The guards, mostly Ukrainian auxiliaries known as Troniki men, forced them to undress in the open square. Panic and confusion reigned. Then, the naked prisoners were driven through the Tube, men separated from women. The women's hair was shorn off by a team of Jewish prisoners. Finally, they were packed into the four gas chambers, each measuring 25 square meters. Wirth's men crammed 750 people into each chamber. The doors were sealed. Christian Wirth gave the order to start the engine. A 500 horsepower diesel motor scavenged from a Soviet submarine. The man tasked with starting it, SS Scharführer Erich Fuchs, struggled. The motor sputtered. It coughed. It would not start. For the next 2 hours and 49 minutes, the 750 people in each chamber waited. Kurt Gerstein stood outside, watch in hand. He could hear them weeping. He later wrote in his report, one could hear them crying, as if in a synagogue. Wirth, enraged by the delay, struck the Ukrainian assistant with his riding whip 12 or 13 times. Gerstein pressed himself against a wooden wall and prayed. Finally, after almost 3 hours of terror, Erich Fuchs managed to start the engine. The carbon monoxide poured into the chambers. For a few minutes, there was screaming. Then, silence. Wirth looked through a small peephole. After 25 minutes, he declared them dead. Gerstein timed it. 32 minutes in total from the moment the engine started. A special team of Jewish prisoners, the Sonderkommando, opened the heavy wooden doors on the other side. The bodies fell out, packed so tightly together they were still standing. The work of extraction began. A team of 4 Genentor dentists with pliers went through the corpses, pulling gold teeth. The next day, August 19th, 1942, Gerstein was driven with Christian Wirth from Belzec toward the Treblinka camp, more than 160 kilometers to the north. With him was the shipment of Zyklon B. Wirth was unimpressed with Gerstein's poison gas, preferring his own diesel method. Along the way, Gerstein saw his opportunity. He told Wirth's driver that one of the heavy steel canisters had been damaged and was leaking, posing a severe risk. Under this pretext, he ordered the vehicle to stop. He dug a hole by the side of the road and buried the evidence. He told Wirth the entire shipment had been compromised in transit and was unusable. He filed a false report claiming the Zyklon B had spoiled. He had sabotaged his own mission. If you value documented WIC2 and post-war history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Now back to the story. A secret of this magnitude could not be held. On the night train back to Berlin on August 20th, 1942, Gerstein found himself in a sleeping car with a Swedish diplomat, Baron Göran von Otter. He saw the Swedish flag on his lapel. Forcing the encounter, Gerstein pulled down the blackout curtain, checked the corridor, and began to speak. He told the diplomat everything he had witnessed. He spoke for nearly 6 hours until the train reached Berlin. He named Wirth. He named Globoknik. He described the pits at Belzec, filled with tens of thousands of bodies. He gave him the numbers, the dates, the locations. He begged von Otter to get the information to the Allied governments immediately. The Baron was shaken and promised he would. Upon his return to Stockholm, he filed a detailed report with the Swedish Foreign Ministry. The report was classified, passed up the chain of command, and filed away. The Swedish government chose neutrality and silence. Back in Berlin, Gerstein tried again. He sought out Dr. Paul Hochstrasser, a press attaché at the Swiss legation, and gave him the same details. Hochstrasser passed the information to a superior in Bern. Again, nothing happened. He then contacted Dr. Otto Dibelius, a prominent Protestant pastor and a leader in the Confessing Church. Dibelius was horrified but advised him only to write everything down and keep it safe for a future day of reckoning. So Gerstein wrote his first detailed report and gave it to his wife, Elfriede Gerstein, to hide. He even attempted to reach the Vatican through its representative in Berlin. He spoke with Dr. Winter, the legal advisor to Conrad von Preysing, the Catholic Bishop of Berlin, Dr. Winter believed him, but said that a direct approach from a junior SS officer to the papal nuncio, Cesare Orsenigo, was impossible. He was turned away at the nuncio's office on the Rauchstrasse. Every door he knocked on remained closed. For the next 3 years, Gerstein lived a double life. As an Obersturmführer in the SS Hygiene Institute, he continued to procure and handle massive shipments of Zyklon B, ostensibly for disinfection. He ordered over 2,175 kilograms of the gas in 1944 alone, but he also continued his quiet sabotage. He would damage shipments, falsify paperwork, and destroy canisters, always claiming they had spoiled or been lost in transit. He used his position to travel throughout German-occupied Europe, always looking for a new contact, a new chance to pass on his information. He survived interrogations by the Gestapo, who were suspicious of his pre-war activities. He survived the bombing of Berlin. He saw the Third Reich, the machine he had tried to expose, collapse into ruin. On April 22, 1945, with American and French forces closing in, Kurt Gerstein left Berlin. He made his way south to the city of Reutlingen and surrendered to the advancing French First Army, under the command of General Jean de Lattre de Tassigny. He immediately identified himself and his purpose, presenting a briefcase full of documents. He had invoices for Zyklon B, official SS correspondence, and his own meticulously detailed reports. He was initially treated as a high-value witness. The French intelligence officers took him to the town of Rottweil and housed him in a hotel, the Hotel Morin. There, he was encouraged to write. In 5 days, he produced a comprehensive, handwritten account of his experiences, first in German and then in French. This became the Gerstein Report. In it, he listed names, units, and camp locations. He described the gassing process in cold, technical detail. He named Odilo Globoknik and Christian Worth. He included the exact number of victims he witnessed die. His status as a witness was temporary. Orders came down from the Central Command in Paris. He was an SS officer, his name on procurement documents for poison gas. That was the only fact that mattered. On July 5th, 1945, he was transferred to the Cherche Midi military prison in Paris. The prison was a grim 19th century fortress on the Rue du Cherche Midi, notorious for its harsh conditions. He was no longer a witness. He was a prisoner. He was placed in a cell with other accused German war criminals, men who saw his desire to testify as treason. On July 13th, 1945, the French judiciary issued a formal indictment. It charged Kurt Gerstein with being an accessory to murder and a war criminal. The man who tried to sound the alarm was now accused of being part of the machine. A contemporary report from the French investigators noted only his rank and unit, SS Obersturmführer, Hygiene Institute. In his cell, Gerstein wrote desperate, smuggled letters to his wife, Elfriede. "I am in deep despair," one read. He maintained his innocence and explained his true motives for joining the SS. He felt utterly betrayed. He had surrendered voluntarily, bringing the evidence with him. He had spoken to the Swedes, the Swiss, the Church. He had risked his life for 3 years. Now he faced a trial where his own reports would be used to convict him. His mental state deteriorated rapidly. He was isolated and, according to other prisoners, tormented by his cellmates, who included SS Sturmbannführer Dr. Karl Böhm, an SS medical officer, and SS Hauptsturmführer Dr. Alfred Meyer. They saw Gerstein as a traitor preparing to testify against them. On July 25, 1945, Kurt Gerstein was found dead in his cell. The official cause of death was listed as suicide by hanging. He was 40 years old. There was no formal autopsy or investigation. The circumstances remained murky, with some later suggesting he may have been murdered by the other Nazis in his cell. His body was buried in an unmarked common grave in the Thiais cemetery outside Paris. The exact location of the grave is still unknown. The story seemed to be over. An SS officer, caught in the dragnet, had taken his own life, but his word survived. The Gerstein Report, which he had written in Rottweil and finished in Paris, was found among his effects. The French prosecutor at the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg, Raymond Cartier, read it. On January 30th, 1946, the report was entered into evidence as document RF 350. It became a foundational text for the prosecution. Gerstein's cold, precise details, the model of the diesel engine, the size of the gas chambers, the number of people packed inside at Belzec, the time it took for them to die, provided undeniable proof of the Holocaust's mechanics. His testimony was used to help convict Hermann Göring and Ernst Kaltenbrunner. The name Kurt Gerstein was read into the official record of the trial that defined Nazi evil for the world. Yet, back in Germany, his name was not cleared. A denazification tribunal in Tübingen opened proceedings against him in 1950, 5 years after his death. On August 17, 1950, based solely on his rank as an SS Obersturmführer and his signature on chemical procurement forms, the court posthumously classified him as incriminated. This ruling had devastating consequences for his family. His wife, Elfriede Gerstein, was denied a widow's pension. His 3 children were denied orphan benefits. Their husband and father was officially a Nazi perpetrator. For 15 years, she fought to clear his name. She presented his letters, his reports, and the evidence from the Nuremberg trials. She secured testimony from Bishop Otto Dibelius and anti-Nazi pastor Martin Niemöller. She argued that his membership in the SS was a cover for his resistance activities. The case went through multiple appeals. The German state was reluctant to accept the paradox of a resistor in an SS uniform. The bureaucracy saw only the rank, not the man's actions. Finally, on January 20th, 1965, the Prime Minister of Baden-Württemberg, Kurt Georg Kiesinger, himself a former Nazi Party member, overturned the verdict. Kurt Gerstein was officially exonerated 20 years after his lonely death in a Paris prison cell. His country finally acknowledged his story. His report had been used to condemn the leaders of the Third Reich. His name was recorded in the annals of the most important trial of the 20th century. But the final report from the Scherche-Midi prison did not mention his evidence. It did not mention his warnings. The last official document of his life, filed on July 25, 1945, was a simple inventory of the possessions found in his cell: a Bible, a fountain pen, and 7 photographs of his wife and 3 children. The evidence was enough for Nuremberg. The man was not